I'm Matthew NeuHauss. I'm the Assistant Secretary for African Affairs at the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade and a former ambassador to Zimbabwe. I think the diaspora has a role not just in remittances but in the real development and influencing policy in Africa to promote Africa's prosperity, and specifically here, of course, in developing relations between Australia and Africa. Our focus is very much on the economic relations. It's often not understood that mining companies in particular have invested some $30 billion in projects in Africa. We want to see that economic relationship diversified. A lot of the world is engaging with Africa with its growth. Yes, there are risks, but there's also a lot of potential, and particularly in diversifying. Education is another important area now in the economic relationship, and also contributes to the skills development in Africa. We see IT services is another area of interaction increasingly between Australia and Africa, and we want to encourage innovation, whether it's in energy or other new developments. Well, it needs to change, but it will change best if it's Africans themselves who know Australians, who are working with Australian partners, take the lead. And I think there is more that needs to be done about opening the way to opportunities, and the Australian government is doing its bit there. And I particularly was highlighting the forthcoming Africa Down Under Australia Africa Week in Perth, which will be from the 5th to 9th of September, and in addition to mining will this year include an oil and gas conference, power infrastructure conference, the Australia-Africa Universities Network, and another academic conference bringing together mining and agriculture. So it's becoming more and more diverse, and the Australian government is putting its support behind that activity, private sector led but government supported. Well, I really want to encourage them to believe in Africa. I mean, when I go to Africa, it's extraordinary how China, India, Turkey, so many other nations are investing and engaging economically in Africa. And it's important that Africans themselves take the lead there. And I really want to also encourage the Australian African diaspora, who've learned a lot of skills from their time in Australia. Also, their understanding of financial markets can help but generate investment funds, which Africa needs, but also encourage the right sorts of policies. I just want to encourage them to take a lead. It's Africans who will ultimately be the ones who really develop their continent and make it the prosperous continent it should be. Well, of course, we do have an Austrade organisation that very specifically is helping Australian business engage around the world, but in Africa as well. And so for those operating out of Australia, that's a government instrumentality is specifically there to support and assist them. And as I say, our embassies on the ground are also doing their bit to help, and we also think some of our Australia Awards education programs, which are focusing on areas like agriculture, mining, good governance development. There's a lot of discussion around policy and governance development will play their part as well. Our embassies and high commissions on the continent, and they're growing in numbers and growing in strength, are supporting Australian businesses and companies that are engaging with Africa. A message about the importance of the diaspora in Africa in playing a leading role in engaging economically. But I also think that organisations like today, very specifically, we were hosted by the Australia-Zimbabwe Business Council, and it has a counterpart organisation, the Zimbabwe-Australia Business Council, back in Harare, which the embassy is very engaged with. I think these groupings of diaspora in Australia's case, but of course back home in Zimbabwe, of Zimbabweans, are very crucial. Also, our alumni networks are bringing together the people who've been educated in Australia and looking to now build up the economic relationships.